What's up, y'all? It's Jeff Cobb, and you're listening to Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show on Social Suplex Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. Listener discretion is advised at all times.
And thank you once again for downloading and listening to another episode of the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network. My name is Clive, and if you have read the show notes for this episode on your podcast app, you will notice that Ricky has been unable to grace us with his and mine and my presence this week. Once again, slightly short notice, but fear not. Always able to think of something on the fly without my man Ricky. Hopefully he's doing alright. It's just a wee bit under the weather at the moment, but I'll speak to him about getting him back. It might have to be a case of, see the wee donate button that you get on the show notes, pressing that and giving us a wee $5 or a £10 or £25. Maybe Ricky will appear then. I'm not twisting your arm or anything, it's just an observation I'm making. So I recorded this on Tuesday evening, and for some of you who are listening waiting for your topics to be discussed, you will know that I have asked for some Twitter questions from listeners, content generators, general Twitter users, fanatics, and all of the above. I've got quite a few questions here, 7 or 8, should be enough to keep me going for another bite-sized episode, bite-sized edition of the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. I might start coming up with a new name for these solo pods. A spin-off of 205 Live, like maybe the loserweight answers your questions. I don't know. That's not really good, is it? So, since Ricky has left me in the lurch, I'm going to answer the question posed by Good Cop, Bad Cop Wrestling Podcast over at Visionaries Global Media. Wrestling questions, Who is the bit, just in case you're wanting to follow Good Cop, Bad Cop, that is at Good Bad Wrestle. Check out their podcast. Wrestling questions, Who's the better arm wrestler, Ricky or Clive? With a nice wee gif of the Sylvester Stallone film, where I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he has, and even if it's not true, pretty sure Anthony Kiedis plays his son, and he has some sort of get-up a machine in his truck that he drives around the country of America that helps him get his biceps up and running. It was a great film. It is worth a shot, worth a watch. Wrestling questions, who's the better arm wrestler? Now, since Ricky's not here, obviously I'm going to say me. And obviously I'm going to say I could beat Ricky in an arm wrestling contest with my arms behind my back. There's nothing else that needs to be said in that one. I have a better grip on the situation. I am able to I've got good leverage when it comes to putting out podcast content, and I'm willing to put over my arm. Sorry, these puns are absolutely horrendous, so I'll just give you my answer. It is I who would win. I who would win the bloody arm wrestling contest. Next up we have at Dr. S'mores, Kyle Moores, friend of the show and host on the Outsider's Edge on the Chairshot Radio Network. Who is your pick for the finals of this AEW number 1 contender tournament? And do they go the obvious route with Omega versus Hangman? Now, I haven't watched AEW for a while, but I am aware that there is a tournament on the go. And I believe the winner of said tournament will go on to face Jonathan Good, aka John Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, aka the Cuck Boy in the Roman Reigns and Renee Young relationship. So I've got the brackets up here for the World Title Eliminator Tournament, which begins next week, which I believe is tonight as you're listening. We have Penta L0 versus Ray Phoenix. Now, that's unfair, because these are a tag team. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to have friends warring against each other. But this is way back on the Lucha Underground days. I did enjoy Ray Phoenix, but I was much more a fan of Pentagon Dark. So I'm going to go for a Pentagon. No, in fact, yes. No. Yes. I don't know the age difference between these two guys, and I'm not sure who is more over with the fan base, but for some theory and something that I want to spout about, I'm going to go for Pentagon Dark. He'll advance in that one. Next up we have Colt Cabana versus Hangman Page. Now I think this is a sort of waning off of Hangman Page and the Dark Order stuff. Colt Cabana is a bit of a gimmick wrestler. He only wins if he has help from Dark Order, I believe. Will he have help from the Dark Order? That is the question I pose to you tonight, even though questions are being posed to me. Let's be serious here, ladies and gentlemen. Hangman Page will advance in this one. So he'll be going to the semis. He will face in the semis either Wardlow or Jungle Boy. Now that is a tricky one, because I don't know much about Wardlow. If you look at it on paper, Wardlow should beat Jungle Boy. However, Jungle Boy is a popular figure. I have seen his father in 2 separate programs in the last month, in case anyone cares. They are Riverdale, which I didn't actually watch. My daughter was watching it. And Criminal Minds, where he was a mad cult leader, paedophile father person. I imagine he wasn't like that in real life. So, due to the popularity and the possibility of Hangman Page versus Jungle Boy being a sort of a match of the month contender, I'm going to go for Hangman Page versus Jungle Boy in the semis. Now, Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega is the last quarter-final match. Again, let's be real here. I think we're starting to get an answer to Kyle's question regarding, are they going to go the obvious route? Joey Janela won't win this. Joey Janela has made an arse of things in a big bad way with the collective pay-per-view that GCW did, COVID testing. There's matches going on with young people in attendance where squirty dildos are part of the matches. Marco Stunt is, and someone else. Nasty. So as punishment, Kenny Omega is going to beat Joey Janela. So we've got Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Dark Junior, Zero Dark Junior, Zero Dark 30. Now, I think Kenny Omega will win this. He's more marketable than Pentagon Dark. From a sort of AEW standpoint of view, and with the story that has been ongoing, I know that Kenny Omega and Adam the Hangman Page have started butting heads a lot more recently, especially as it pertains to being singles competitors. However, and it still irks me to this day, Lucha Underground and AAA, Pentagon Dark used an arm breaker in his finishing moves, and it finished people off. That was the end of the match. But Kenny Omega, at All In, back in September 2018, he no-sold the arm break. It's like, you arsehole. So, I was actually genuinely angry with that one, so I don't hope Pentagon breaks his arm, but I hope they don't actually do that again, because that would tear my heart out. It would be the final nail in the coffin for AEW. Hangman Page versus Jungle Boy. This will be one of those ones that AEW like to do, where the underdog puts in a valiant effort. The sort of underdog gets over in a gracious loser performance, but Hangman Page will win the victory here. It probably irked out though. He'll squeeze a victory out, and that will lead us to Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. Now, for me, This is leading up to Full Gear. I would like to see Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at Full Gear. Not on TV with the match being with the winner fighting Jon Moxley at Full Gear. Oh, wait a minute. The finals are Full Gear. I think I need to do a wee bit of research. Hold on a minute, ladies and gentlemen. So is Full Gear going to be an actual episode of Dynamite? No, Full Gear is Saturday the 7th of November. So the finals are at Full Gear. Right, okay. Right, so they're not actually facing Jon Moxley at flipping Full Gear. Don't know what Jon Moxley's going to be doing. Let's have a wee quick look on Google, Wikipedia. Now it looks like Jon Moxley has not been used so far. Right. I want to see Hangman Page win because I think the world of Hangman Page. I would like to see him the top of the world. I think his theme music begs to be played at the end of a pay-per-view. It just does. There's just something about the music. It needs to play at the end. And contrary to what many believe, Kenny is going to be the arsehole who turns on Hangman Page here. Hangman Page is he's got an attitude problem. He has an alcohol problem, but I will be happy to see Hangman Page go forward as a sort of anti-hero babyface, and I hope he takes the title, to be honest with you. Next up, ladies and gents, 2 questions in. This is from @Declan_Kenny. Oh shit, I've lost his page. @Declan_Kenny82. This is Declan Kenny from 5 Nerds Go. Also a YouTube video game streamer. So check out @TeamZoomZoom1 on Twitter. That'll give you all the details there. They play Fall Guys apparently. Who'd win in a fight? A vegan or an emo? First of all, apologies for any vegans or emo fans that are listening to the podcast right now. This is content created by the fans for the fans. So, this is not to poke fun at vegans or emos was not my intention. But, let's put it this way. Pete Dunne is a vegan, and it looks like, from the way he dresses and all that stuff, that Darby Allin is an emo. So Pete Dunne versus Darby Allin, who would win in a fight? I rest my case, ladies and gentlemen. Vegans for the victory. Now, this is a question from regular friend and contributor to the show, Sir Sam, @Sir_Samuel. Thoughts on the G1? Did you guys catch any of it? And what were your highlights if you did? Now, Sam, full disclosure, I didn't see a single bit of the G1 this year. I've not watched a lot of wrestling recently, if I'm being brutally honest with you. But I did panic in Skywalker style, and I asked Ricky to contribute some thoughts on the G1 so that you're not left hanging with your question. So here you go. Here's a nice wee rundown from Ricky. The G1 was the G1. Guaranteed great wrestling. An Ospreay heel turn. Ospreay is a piece of shit, apparently. And a great winner. Really wanted Jay White to win, but his match with Ibushi at Power Struggle is going to be excellent. It's difficult to pinpoint Ricky's favourite matches, but he thinks his top 3 were probably Tanahashi versus Naito, Shingo versus Ospreay, and Shingo versus Okada, and Sanada versus Ibushi in the finals, in parenthesis. Personally, he doesn't think it quite reached the peak of last year's G1, but that's not to take away how many very, very good to great matches that took place this year. His favourite night was probably night 17 from the A block, which had 4 really good matches with 2 solid matches. Final thought is the Power Struggle card looks really strong, with at least 4 matches that should be great to watch, and 2 more that should be very, very solid at worst. Now, from what I believe, the Bold Ibushi G1 Winners 2020. Oh dear. There we go, list of winners. Kota Ibushi. So Kota Ibushi has won 2 years in a row. It's an odd one, that one, because that's a couple of times where Ibushi has won. I believe the first time he won it, he wasn't full time with New Japan. Second time, this was involved in the Gold Rush tournament, and there was a lot of cogs at play in that one, lots of cogs in the wheel. So it wasn't his time, but with Okada a wee bit down the pecking order, Naito's championship reign being met with a bit of scrutiny from die-hard New Japan fans. I've seen a lot of questions over New Japan's booking recently, which is surprising to hear. It's quite odd to think that Ibushi is going to go to Wrestle Kingdom again in the main event. And also, if Naito is the champion leading into then, now Ibushi and Naito have really good matches, but they hate each other. They try it's like the big, when the Power Rangers all morph up to form a big monster and they take on the baddie of the episode, they try and kill each other. And last time, Naito nearly succeeded. And it's come to the point now where I don't want to see these guys wrestle because of the safety measures at play here. It's just, I'm not thinking about the booking. I'm not fully up to date. If you're wanting that, you're much better speaking to the guys at New Japan, keeping it strong style, sorry. They document every blow. They've got their very in-depth analysis of the booking, the progress of the company and all that stuff, so go to there. But for me, from a safety standpoint, I just don't want to see that match anymore. I've said this many times, a lot of people aren't fans of death matches, super hardcore matches, but I would rather never see a bad neck bump again in my life, to be honest with you. Also, Bea Priestley has joined up with Will Ospreay. Wow, wowzers. Brutal. Just, sometimes you've just got to think, like, this ties in with what's going on with New Japan at the moment. Questionable booking when you had Evil win the title. Questionable booking again when he lost it quite quickly. And now you've got Will Ospreay, who's apparently turning into a bit of a heel, and his equally horrible blackballing wife. So I don't know how aware the Far Eastern audience are with regards to Will Ospreay and Bea Priestley's shenanigans, blackballing wrestlers. It's just a bit odd. It doesn't seem like New Japan to sort of cater to the Western audience with getting heat for heat's sake. That's usually a WWE trope, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one, and if it is successful and garners the heat with which they wish to slap on Ospreay's blackballing shoulders. Next up, thanks Sam for that, next up is Josh McLaughlin, at Laughlin_Josh. He's saying, what's going to be the better show, Bound for Glory or Hell in a Cell? Now, I feel unqualified or underqualified to answer that question because, you know, I've not watched Impact in a long time. However, they seem to be knocking it out of the park when it comes to their big pay-per-views. So I'm going to do a rundown of the card so far. Now, there's Hell in a Cell. There are 4 matches booked so far, and one of these is not like the other. Come on, right. See, even with these 3 matches, right, the 3 Hell in a Cell matches, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, all of them Hell in a Cell matches. The Reigns and Jey Uso is an I Quit match. I mean, come on, we all saw what happened at the last pay-per-view. I have been a big fan of Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, and a rivalry that has lasted quite a few months now. There is no better place to end such a rivalry than in a Hell in a Cell. I've been a fan of Drew McIntyre's straight up rules matches. I've been a fan of the no DQ matches, the ambulance matches, all the gimmick stuff. I have no qualms at all that Drew McIntyre will struggle to deliver in a Hell in a Cell match. And Bayley and Sasha Banks, that story tells itself, and I think the story is nowhere near finished either. Obviously there is the whole thing about they should have waited till Mania, but they've not, and we've got it, and it's made this look like a splendid wee card. You've got Jeff Hardy versus Elias. Oh, there's the piss break match right there. Sorry to any Jeff Hardy or Elias fans, but dear. Personally, Josh, that alone, those 3 matches are wowzerific. But in the interests of fairness, I will check up Bound for Glory. I am bound for glory. Just pulling it up on Wikipedia just now. Matches. Eric Young versus Rich Swann for the Impact World Championship. Deonna Purrazzo versus Kylie Ray. That'll be quite good, that one. Deonna Purrazzo's doing very well for herself on Impact, I know that much. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin versus Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows versus The North versus Ace Austin and Madam Fulton. Madam Fulton, that's Madman Fulton's missus. I've not heard of Madman Fulton, unless that's Sawyer Fulton from Sanity back in the day. I've heard many good things about The North, and the Motor City Machine Guns speak for themselves. Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. I mean, lots of people talked about the magic that they had in New Japan. Even when they were given the ball in WWE, I didn't see much that blew me away, so not over the moon with that. Not over the moon, just not really that bothered about this one. Now this one is up my street. Hopefully TJP gets attacked by someone. Rohit Raju, Chris Bay, Jordan Grace, TJP, Trey and Willie Mack in a 6-way intergender scramble match. If this is the kind of scramble match I'm thinking of, where you've got 20 minutes and whoever is the last to hold the title at the end of the 20 minutes is the champion, then I do enjoy that gimmick very much. I wish WWE brought it back. 6-way intergender. I think I would love to see a Jordan Grace win there. EC3 versus Moose in a singles match. Not much to say there. Eddie Edwards versus Ken Shamrock with Sami Callihan. Ken Shamrock could still batter many people. Then you've got, what's going on here? AC Romero versus Brian Myers versus Havoc versus Heath versus Hernandez. Right, Heath as a name is shit, by the way. Just Heath on its own, that's rubbish. So, Romero, Myers, Havoc, Heath, Hernandez, Larry D, Rhino, Taya Valkyrie, Tennille Dashwood, Tommy Dreamer and TBD, which must be the big dog Roman Reigns, so that's what TBD means. To call your shot gauntlet match, where the winner could choose any championship match of their choice. If Heath or Rhino wins, then Heath also wins a full-time contract with Impact Wrestling. Well, I think you know your winner there. Now, with the hooks, there are many hooks here. The chance for Jordan Grace to become the X Division champion. The chance for Heath to win. And also to win a contract. The chance for TBD to be a surprise entrant. And a chance for Deonna Purrazzo to cement her legacy as a damn fine women's champion. It's a solid card, and I'm very sure that many Impact fans are quite stoked for this pay-per-view. And I know many of the names. I know that when it comes to the big pay-per-views, Impact do knock it out the park. The problem though is, you hear all the buzz about it on Twitter. This is it, Impact have turned a corner. And then it's silent. And then it's the next one of their bigger pay-per-views of the year. It's silent in between those moments. They need to keep momentum high and loud. So personally, Josh, I would say WWE's Hell in a Cell, but those 3 matches, come on. Right, next question, or next set of questions from Murray Bone, at MurrayBone44. McDonald's or Burger King? This is his first question. McDonald's or Burger King? The correct answer is KFC. Okay. How much money? Number 2. How much money would you need to be offered to take a chop from Volta? Now you need to take into account skin grafts, so medical supplies, right? So skin grafts, you're probably talking in the ballpark of a couple of £1,000 there for the skin grafts. You've got the rehab, because the skin grafts, the skin will be taken from the fatty part of your thigh and put into your chest. So that means you'll need to get walking sticks or walking frames, physio, just a physio to help you, exercise regimes, rolling mats, yoga mats, and because of the skin graft, your metabolism will be all to pot, so you'll need nutrient supplements, protein shakes, fat stabilizers. There's another couple of grand. And punitive damages, just for the sheer audacity to do something that sounds like a gunshot and smashing your chest to smithereens. Loss of earnings, because I'll have been off work for more than 6 months, and because it would be just so damaging. So loss of earnings, you're looking at that much per year. Let's say I'm off work for 1.5 years, you get 6 months free sick pay, so that's 1 year, and offset that against benefits from the government, because I'll be getting that, so you offset that. I'll tell you the figure for that one later. And just general emotional damages. So we're looking at about £3 billion before I would take a chop from Volta. In reality, I would take a monthly mortgage payment to take a chop from Volta. Number 3, give me a Netflix series to watch. Currently near the end of watching Gotham. Okay. It's actually weird. I've not actually watched a lot of Netflix recently. A lot of the things I've been watching have been on Amazon Prime. But if you specifically have Netflix, then I recommend Line of Duty. It is a police series, detective series, but this time the police are the ones being investigated, because you see the team, the main characters, the protagonists, are all working for an internal affairs division in a Midlands part police force. Muzza, I kid you not, it's one of the best programmes I've ever seen. So Line of Duty, get it swatched. Number 4, Tesco or Asda or Sainsbury's. Again, the answer is Aldi for a start, and then the Pound Shop, and then B&M, and then Home Bargains. I didn't know Tesco was still a thing, to be honest with you. I know they still do the city centre ones, but do Tesco still have supermarkets? So, those were your 4 questions. Decent enough, but 1 and 4, the correct answers weren't even there. Fella. Next up. Mags. Podfather Mags at DEJ Kirkby, or for Rance DEJ Kirkby. What is your Mount Rushmore of British comedy shows? Now, this is actually quite hard. I've got 2, and I would include another one, but technically it's not British, so I'm not going to include Father Ted, but that is the correct answer. So, in no particular order, I've got Little Britain, the sketch show, which I found just very funny. It's one of those ones that should annoy me, but it really didn't. So, got to give a lot of love to Little Britain. The other one is The Office. Due to my working in an office-based environment, I can relate scarily too closely to many of the characters in the UK version of The Office, starring Richard Gervais. I have not seen one single episode of the American Office. Have no wish to see it either, because it's not really the same. If you want cringe, if you want to know what it's really like in a UK office, then watch The Office, because it is spot on. And it's almost a case of you can't laugh because you're too busy crying or cringing, looking at it behind fingers. Number 3. Now, I don't know if I'm actually getting these categories right, because you might be looking for sitcoms, but my next one is Bo Selector. Back in early 2000s, the rubber masks. Lee Francis, for anyone who doesn't know, Keith Lemon, who does Celebrity Juicing Through the Keyhole. He did Bo Selecta like 20 years ago. And I thought it was way ahead of its time. Took the piss out of celebrities. Rubber masks, big, massive NHS specs. You had the likes of Christina Aguilera with a Scouser accent. Britney Spears with a Vancouvian accent. George Michael with a Geordie accent. Just utter nonsense from start to finish. Outrageous. Too dodgy for TV. Don't know how they got away with it. Bo Selecta was way ahead of its time for me personally. Check it out. You'll get that joke. If you've watched Bo Selecta before. And last but not least, I've got to give a bit of love to some people closer to home. And that is the one and only Lemmy Show. Brian Lemon, aka Lemmy. I'm sure many of you have seen retweets or tweets from Lemmy over the many years he has been active on Twitter. A sort of surreal sketch show. Very Scottish humour based, but I think there's enough in there that you don't need to be from Scotland to get it. May have helped if you have smoked some stuff in the past, you get those kind of jokes, but overall, if you're looking for a bit of surreal, thinking what the hell is this, but you can't help but laugh at it, then check out Lemmy's Show. Thank you, Mags, for that one. Oh, right, I'll need to be quiet with this one. This is from the @5NerdsGo account, probably from Matt himself, so I don't want to say this too loud in case some family members hear this, but he says, if your parents' lives were threatened and you had to openly jizz on an animal in the park, what animal would you choose? Now that might seem like a very out there question, but it's an ongoing theme with the 5NerdsGo community, which is maybe 10, 11 strong. That sounds shite of me saying that, but it's a strong, fervent, riddled, putrid community, and I'm very proud to be a part of it now. If my parents' lives were threatened and I had to openly jizz on an animal in the park, what animal would you choose? It depends who's there. I would probably choose a snail, because that means it would just look like slime that the rest of the snail produces. So when I rescue my family, I don't have to walk past like a hedgehog or a squirrel and see the remains of my seed. So if it was a snail, I wouldn't see it anymore. I'm sorry that you had to hear that, ladies and gents, but ask 5NerdsGo to explain themselves for that one. Oh, that was bad. But it felt so right as well. I'm just going to go back into my shell for that one before this episode goes at a snail's pace. I don't want the episode to go at a snail's pace, so I'm just going to check before I answer the last question. Good cop, bad cop. Kyle Moores, Declan Kenny, 5NerdsGo, Sam Muzza, Podfather Mags and Josh. Yes, so the last one, earlier on in the day I was starting to panic a wee bit because I thought there wouldn't be much content, but it turns out there's been quite a lot, so thank you for listening to me drivel on about snail jizz, Pete Dunne battering Darby Allin to hell and back and all that stuff. I asked Ricky for not only his thoughts on the G1 but to provide a question, and he has asked me to book a pay-per-view with 5 matches from wrestlers from New Japan, WWE and AEW. So a mishmash of the 3. And I haven't actually got a full answer yet, but the first one I would do right away would definitely be FTR versus Grizzled Young Veterans. It saddens me to this day that we didn't get to see that on something like a Worlds Collide, or when Grizzled Young Veterans started making their way over to NXT. I just think that's a match made in heaven. 2 old school heels. I do like heels against each other because there's quite the chess match going on, but the Grizzled Young Vets are hybrids where they go on the attack as well as defend well. So definitely that would be my tag match. Women's match. there really isn't. I'm sorry, but there's not much in the way of women's matches that I've seen that have won me over. A lot of people give praise to Shida, but I've seen many a botch from her. I would probably pick Penelope Ford, but that's just the best out of an average bunch, if I'm being honest with you. Penelope Ford versus... Oh no, in fact, it has to be Brandy Rhodes versus Stephanie McMahon. Has to be. Brandy Rhodes versus Stephanie McMahon for a sort of control of who is the better branding officer. It's definitely a match. Also, let me think. Okada. Who would I want Okada to face? Because it has to be Okada that faces someone. Let me see. Okada. Do you know, I've always wanted to see this match because I think if said individual had applied himself fully and consistently for his 18 years in the business, and I think Randy Orton would be in the same conversation as Okada. So I'd like to see Randy Orton versus Okada. I would also like to see Jay White versus Pete Dunne, because can you just imagine the scrap Jay White and Pete Dunne would have? It would be glorious. Absolutely glorious. They would tear lumps out of each other. It would be gnarly, gritty, grisly. Really, can you think of a better match than Jay White versus Pete Dunne for that nastiness? I've changed what I'm going to do for the Brandy Rhodes versus Stephanie McMahon match. That's going to be a mixed tag match featuring, I guess you know where I'm going here, a mixed tag match, so Triple H and Stephanie McMahon versus Cody and Brandy Rhodes, and a throne match. So the first person who gets to sit on the throne with their spouse of the female persuasion standing behind them, arms draped across their burly shoulders, burly HGH induced shoulders. So it's like a stretcher match, it's like an ambulance match, except you're the one that's got to get on the throne. Between the entrances themselves, although Ricky's only asked for a 5-match pay-per-view, the entrances, the shenanigans, this match could easily go on for about 2 hours. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I have? I had the mixed tag match. I have Randy Orton versus Okada. I have the tag team match, Pete Dunne and Jay White. Oh, excuse me, I've got one more to think of. Okay, think of, right, oh, that's a good shout. That's a good shout, that one. Who would it be against? Seth Rollins. In fact, see, for just the work rate, for the shits and giggles, for the knees to the face, I want to go for Buddy Murphy versus Kenny Omega in a V-trigger spam fest. Kind of similar finishing moves as well when you think about it. Similar builds, similar bad promo work, similar bad haircuts, similar dodgy attires, but similar wowzer work rate wrestling. So there we go. I think that sounds like a decent wee pay-per-view. It's got a bit something for everyone. And no offence to the rest of the women in AEW, but I've not seen enough decent work from anyone to merit goodness. That sounded terrible out loud, but it is what it is. Ladies and gents, first of all, thank you very much for listening to this show. If you've made it this far, then I thank you very much. If it was just to listen to your question being asked, then thank you again, because sometimes when I'm left on my own, it's hard to think of something that there's a certain part of stage fright involved with doing these on your own. I get over that quite quickly, as you can hear me rabbit on and on and on. But the podcast couldn't have been done without you this week. it's regularly not able to be done without you. We try our very best to include fans. As I said, fans again, such a mark for myself. Try and include listeners in the content of the show. And I do enjoy these ones, so thanks for listening. This has been the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, where you can find other shows such as One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, Grown Men Watch This Shit, Grave Consequences, All Things Elite, and Great Match Generator, and 8-Bit Suplex, nearly in one breath there. Please give those podcasts a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice, but if you can go to Apple Podcasts, if you have an Apple Podcast account, if Apple aren't arseholes about their login details, because I fucking hate Apple, please let us know. A 5-star review. You can go to socialsuplex.com and get these podcasts notified to you directly into your email inbox. If you press the subscribe button, you will also get columns sent to you there. On the show notes, you'll notice that there are links to a donate page. You can donate to either us, like me, for a webcam, and for a sound card, because the other equipment that I use is on the brink regularly, and maybe for Ricky to turn up again. And I swear, honestly, if there is £20, right, £20 sterling donated to the show, and you've screenshotted that you've donated money, sent it to the mailbox, the DMs at Ricky and Clive, you will get exclusively a wrestling stand-up podcast, because I know you all love my jokes. So how's that for an incentive? You people who've donated to the show, and once I reach the target of £20, I will send you a stand-up wrestling podcast just for you and your loved ones to listen to. Also on the show notes, you'll see that there are links to the T-shirt page, prowrestlingtees.net. If you go there, put in Social Suplex into the search engine, you'll find all the information there about getting some Social Suplex attire. I can't speak. See, I can never do a plug to save myself. Wrestling Square Circle is where you can find us all talking about wrestling, and we are at Ricky and Clive on Twitter, and also don't forget to follow at Social Suplex. I hope to grow the community, you have all been listening to the Twitter names that I've been reading out. Please make sure to follow each other, and we can have a good wee chat and laugh about the questions. In fact, I'll do a wee thank you link myself when the podcast's out, because that's the kind of guy I am. Let's get the community growing. Fuck bad people on the wrestling world. That's what I'll say to that. There's some arseholes out there. I don't know where that came from. That just came out of nowhere. I'm going to just double check Twitter to make sure there haven't been any more questions coming in. No, that's it. So, all those questions, thank you for contributing. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being an ear for me to bleed my shite into. That is a horrendous visual. Thank you for listening, and speak to you. Someone from the Rick and Clive Wrestling Show will speak to you next week. Thank you, and good night. And enjoy Bound for Glory, and Hell in a Cell, and enjoy Pentagon Junior breaking Kenny Omega's arm, and Kenny Omega no selling it like a bitch. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Podcast. We'll see you next time.